All right, brother.
Hey man, how's it going?
Some technical difficulties, huh?
Hey, it's always something, right?
I think it's a beard conspiracy, man. They saw too much beard in the Instagram live.
Dude, I like it. What's your goal with the beard? Growing it out as long as you can, or what?
You know what? I want to be able to hide something in there. Get to the point where I can hide something in there. Then just whip it out, man.
I this Corona keeps going. You might have the opportunity to do that.
Seriously, man. I mean, I could probably do it anyways because I don't have a real job. I haven't grown up yet. So, But what about you, man? Your beard game's strong right now.
It's getting there. I'm trying to get the Finnish Viking look. You know,
Yeah, I like it, man. You're going strong, man.
I
I would
want to
not want to go up against you if I was a player on another team, man. I'd be like, look at our coach, man. He's crazy.
I want to put a little fear into the other coach when I shake his hands before the game.
Oh yeah, man, dude. He's already going to his other coaches like we have no chance. But no, I like it, man. I respect it. You know what I was thinking about it because I knew we were gonna have a beard conversation. I think the level of your beard is directly correlated to your defensive abilities as a player or probably as a coach too.
I agree with that. I think
Yeah.
that's kind of where the defensive skills come from. It's not from
Yeah.
anything training wise. It's just the beard.
No way, no way. That's what Brett Hall tells you. He's like, just grow a beard out. Just grow a beard out. We're gonna kick balls at you in the box, driven balls until you faint.
If you do well, if your beard looks nice, we'll get you a contract somewhere.
There it is, man. I've seen a lot of good players that didn't have beards, didn't get contracts, man.
Exactly. All right, guys, welcome back to another Footy and Coffee Conversations. Are you a coffee drinker?
I am not, man.
All right, so I'm going alone on this one.
I got super watered down coffee.
Oh, there you go.
I got the
Um,
coffee mug for you.
I appreciate it. So to get started, if you just want to introduce yourself, and I guess you're not playing anymore. Spoiler alert, but you
Yeah,
have a long career that we'll get
yeah.
into. So
Yeah, so I guess for me, I'm 32 now. I retired about 6, 7 months ago, which to be honest, not a bad time to retire because
yeah,
no one else has really played more than me because when I retired was the end of the season and took the off season off, and now guys have done preseason, but no one's really trained. But nevertheless, yeah, I played. I grew up here in America. I grew in the Chicago area. Played college Division I, pretty close, Northern Illinois University. Tore my ACL my senior year. Came back redshirt senior. Went to Japan right after on a trial. Left there because of nuclear crisis. Fukushima, there was a massive tsunami and stuff. Came back here. All the seasons were pretty locked up. Trained with Bridges for a year. We went to Holland that year. This is before the Sweden, before all that stuff, and we went to Netherlands. This is what they did back in the day, and we played against. I found out later I played against Virgil van Dijk in our first game there.
oh
We
wow,
yeah, we jumped off the plane, and I didn't know. They told me later, but we played FC Groningen, and they were in the Europa League that year. So yeah, but it was a good experience. Like no one got picked up. It wasn't like it is now, where they got guys.
how'd you guys do in that game?
That's not a good question, man. 6-0. I figured out that I made a rat like a I I don't know an analysis here. Every time we lost the ball, they scored. So we came up with a strategy. Hey, let's just not touch the ball. Let's just watch them play, and then avoid the counterattack. And when we started to open up a little bit, so we just sat in. But they were amazing, man. We had just hopped off the plane 2 days before that, man, and what an experience of European football that was for me, man. And we played some good teams there. We played some other Dutch reserve teams and stuff, but I think that might have been the only first team we played, and they were Europa League team and the best quality. So yeah, but yeah, went there. Nothing happened. There was maybe some German clubs. There was something maybe that they were talking about because we dipped into Germany or we were close there for a little bit. But then I came back, trained with Bridges for a year, got signed in the USL with Dayton Dutch Lions, played or I signed 3 contracts there, tore my ACL in the second year. Came back for my third, different coach. didn't see eye to eye. Went to Finland after that because it wasn't working. I transferred in the middle of that season, went to Finland. That's where I started my career in Finland a bit. Signed with the team North Finland, Kemi, and then we won the league. Next year I signed with the team close to it. Are you in? You're in Finland right now, or what?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh man, okay, it's kind of getting kind of. But I signed with the team close to you, obviously Narpez. It's a small place, man, but they love their football there. They love their soccer and it have a beautiful field. So I signed there. It was cool, and then came back there. Came back after that. Took some time off, personal reasons, some stuff, and trained with Bridges again. Ended up going over with them in the summer. Signed in Sweden. Stayed with that team. Helped them promote for 3 years, and then for 2 years. And the second year there. And then the third year, I got picked up, or I got seen by a Brazilian coach that owned a Brazilian-owned team or not owned, but he's coaching the Brazilian-owned team in Slovakia, and transferred over there at the very last day of the transfer window in Slovakia. They were in relegation, helped them avoid relegation, get out of there, climb out, and I had an injury at very end, and the new coach, that Brazilian coach, was gone, and we didn't see eye to eye. So there was a team looking at me in the top league that was pretty serious, I guess, and because we played them in our middle of the season, preseason, in between, and that just didn't work out. I waited for a while, and I just wasn't getting the opportunities. It wasn't going up, It was kind of staying the same. And at this point, I was like, I'll go home and pay the game forward if it's not going to get better at this point. So, and I also had massive immigration problems in Sweden. I still do. So that's fun stuff. We can talk about that stuff. But that's about it. Now I'm home. I've been home for 5 or 6 months, and I'm just trying to pay the game forward, trying different ways, and start life after football. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go back, starting with your youth career. You start at Campton, and then you switch to Magic. If anyone knows Chicago soccer, that's a serious soccer club at that time.
Yeah, yeah.
You had a lot of success at the Magic. If I bring up Dallas Texans Soccer Club, does that stir emotion still to this day?
I can't turn this off right now.
Yeah, obviously two losses in the national finals to them.
Yeah, you
That's
did your research, man. Yeah.
Not a fun loss, but still to make it 2 years to the national finals is a big success from a club standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, this was before the academy, so it was all state, regionals, nationals. There was no academy, none of that stuff. So it was a big deal, and we ended up losing the Dallas Texans. That was they had a lot of big time players, but I guess Omar Gonzalez, the national team player, was probably their most well known player on that team. So yeah, to see them twice, for all the teams in the entire country to play it out, and to see them twice in the national final, or in the nationals and national final, and lose to them twice, I hate Texas for that reason. So
it seems like every time you guys play a club, the biggest name from it is the center back.
What's up, man? I don't know what's up with that. The guys that I never get to see. Although I did defend some pretty big center backs on set pieces in my days, but I honestly don't really remember Van Dyke, because all those guys were just like next level, bro. And we had, it was me, and then it was a bunch of college kids for the most part. I had Jeff DeGroot with me as well, so a couple older guys, and then it was just a bunch of college kids, so we had no chance. But yeah, it was Dallas Texans. It was a good youth club experience, very professional, very disciplined. My club, very disciplined. It set me up to be a professional, to have that discipline. Maybe they didn't promote as much creativity as I would have liked. That was a big thing, because it was my coach was two-touch in training all the time, crossing, finishing, which wins you games. But I think at a young age, you want players to express some creativity, and then as they get older, it gets more disciplined.
Yeah. At that point, when you're playing club soccer, what's your kind of goal or focus? Is it college? Is it professional at that point? What are you thinking you want to do with soccer?
That's a good question. And I got to think back there. I think it's really always for me was to be a pro. I mean, I made that goal when I was a kid. I said, this is my mission. This is what I want to do. And I'm going to run with it. But obviously college, you have to have your goals, and college was a big part of it. You got to. In America, I didn't really know any other way. And back then, there maybe wasn't such a connection with Germany like there is now, or even Scandinavia. I don't feel like it was as strong. So Yeah, it was to go pro, but college was always in my sights, and that was something that I was doing. I just wanted to be the best player I could, you know.
How did you decide on NIU? Were you looking at multiple different schools? What was that process like, getting recruited?
Yeah, so I was actually on the regional team, and for whatever reason, I was on the regional team 2 years. Every year I did it, and then I decided my last year. So the colleges were looking, and we went to a showcase in Disney with the regional team, and I only played 2 out of 4 games, and I don't even think I played in the other games. So I was kind of mad because I didn't go with Magic, and I went with the regional team because they invited me, and then I barely played. So. I guess they were going to invite me to the next thing, which was a trip to Italy, and I decided not to take that because I was just mad. I put my pride up there, you know. I was just mad that they didn't play me, and a lot had to go with that. There was this like elite Nike program back then, and I think that would have been big for recruiting purposes. But I just played with Magic, played with the regional team, and before, and then I decided not to go, so I kind of ended my ODP thing. And I think that kind of hurt me, but at the same time, I was getting offers. I didn't really reach out to schools as much as I should have. I just assumed they would come to me, and I still did get offers, but I ended up getting quite a bit of money because obviously soccer, it's tough to get a men's, it's tough to get a full scholarship. And I
Yeah.
got a lot. And it was close, and it was close for my parents, which was nice. And they had a lot of Magic players there, to be honest, a lot of older Magic players that I knew. And it was a pretty good program, so I knew it was going to be good. I really liked the coach. I sat down with him, so I committed pretty early for guys. I think I committed like somewhere earlier in the junior year, and that's
Oh
pretty early
wow.
for guys.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
um,
early for guys.
yeah, something like that because they pulled the old, hey, if you don't take this, we're gonna start giving it away, you know. And I had no idea how to negotiate or how things work, and I was just like, oh, we gotta go. So I jumped on that, and to be honest, I got some good offers after that. Like after I did that, I had some good offers from some schools. I can't even really remember anywhere, but like North Carolina, some good schools down there, and like even though I already had, but it was I verbally committed and stuck to my word there. So that's kind of how that happened.
Yeah, and you were in college, you were playing kind of a lot of different positions throughout your years there.
Yeah, so mostly outside back. They put me in, started as a freshman as an outside left back because didn't have a left-footed player. And I came off playing in the national final the week before as like a winger, like outside mid, like attacking player. And then they're like, oh, yeah, we want to play you as outside back in college. So I said, okay, whatever. And that was like a back four that didn't attack. But I was like, a play as a freshman would be great. And that team ended up winning the MAC championship, and it was really good. Our freshman year was a really good team. And so we made it to the tournament, ended up losing to Indiana. But I essentially played there. They loved me there. I ended up playing, I think like what solidified my spot as outside back is we played Notre Dame like the fourth or fifth game of the season. And they're like, all right, your job is to shut down. His name was, I think it was Joseph Lapira. He was the Herman winner, which is the Heisman for
Okay, yeah.
soccer, you know. He won it for Notre Dame that year. And they're like, your mission in this game is to shut him down. And yeah, I had one of my best games in my college career. Like he didn't really do anything. We ended up tying them 0-0 at Notre Dame, big result.
Oh
I think
wow.
from there, like they made a decision. Hey, he's going to be left back forever. And it was tough because in the summers I'd play for Fire PDL, one of the best PDL programs in the country. It was at that time, I think, consistently. And I would play in the midfield, and they loved me there. And then I'd go back to college. They're like, no, 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 you're playing outside back. And I kind of knew I wanted to be a midfielder, and that's where I belonged. But I had to do what they wanted, and so I played a couple games here and there, and I did really well in college. But they wanted me back there to solidify the defense, and you know, my offensive skills lacked a little bit when I was playing a lot of outside back there. So I maybe it was the right decision looking back for them after I'd played there so long. But yeah, so I essentially played midfield, outside back, center midfield, outside midfield, but mostly outside back for my college career.
Yeah. No, it's one of those where as a freshman at first you're just excited to see the field, and
Yeah,
then as you start to get more games under your belt, you start to be like, well, I kind of want to play in the position I feel is best, and that's a difficult thing because maybe the enjoyment of getting to play starts to not mean as much, after you've already been a consistent starter.
that's it, 100%. And I tell a lot of kids now, like whether it's club or they're getting into college, I say, if you can get on, because there's some coaches will say, hey, play wherever you can play, you can get on the field. I say that's right, but I mean, train for you where you want to be, and then maybe, when you get that opportunity, like don't market yourself for that. If you, like, you have to look ahead, and I didn't market myself for it, but train for the position you want to play, and maybe instead of doing something that's like okay and you're still playing soccer, do what you love. Life's too short, man. Do what you love and play the position. Don't disagree with the coach or anything. It's a like, from the coaching end, it's a tough situation because like, you don't want to be like disrespectful or anything, but you want to just them to understand this is who you are and this is what you train for. So it's a difficult position. If I had to look back, maybe I would have rather sat for a year, or came off the bench for a year and a half and played midfield than start as a freshman and play every game at a position that, wasn't my favorite, and I don't think I was ever going to be a professional in.
Yeah. What part of college does professional soccer change from just a dream to a realistic option for you?
That's a great question, man. And to be honest, for me, never. Never. As in, like, I always wanted to do it. It was always a dream. But, I mean, because I was playing left back and I wasn't getting accolades, man. I wasn't getting points, It was really difficult for me. Like, I was playing left back, too, because I had a good left foot, man. Because in high school, I tried to become Messi. I saw Messi. I'm like, oh, I want to be him. So in high school, I tried to become him. I go in my backyard. I'm training dribbling for like 2 hours every day with my left foot. And then I realized when I came to the game, man, I never used it because you get in that fight or flight mode, And you're like, you always go to your strong foot. Your brain doesn't think about it. So I did all this training, and I'm like, oh, that was kind of a waste of time. But I am very two-footed now, and I was two-footed in college. So, but either way, you want to be on your strong foot. I'm playing left back, so I'm playing on my weak side, outside back. So it was always a dream, and I guess if I want to say, like, it started to become a little bit more realistic, or maybe I'm getting on radars a bit more, was when we played I guess it came from PDL. Yeah, when we played in the national final for PDL. So my sophomore to junior year, we played in the national final. So that season was crazy. So we're the Chicago Fire, one of the best PDL teams, man. Everyone knows the Chicago Fire, and we're struggling this year. Like, they recruit from everywhere. We get kids from North Carolina, from Wake Forest, from
yeah, that was back before it was only Fire products, right?
Exactly. Didn't even have like academy back or homegrown back then, So this team's so sick, and the owner of it, like, we're struggling, and they're bringing guys in from everywhere. I was local, so I just came and played, and they liked how I played. So that's how I came in the year before when they had a coaching change, and they didn't do all this recruiting, and I did well that year before. That's how I kind of got in there, because I wasn't a big name player, but they liked how I played, so it didn't matter. And essentially, we played in the national final, and I was an off and on starter because that team was so sick. If you look at that team, every single, like, if I break down like the top 14 players, out of the top 14 players, it was my junior and senior, now I think about it. Out of the top 14 players out of that team, 15 players, I think like 13 or 14 were in the MLS drafted. And I was like one of them that didn't. And it hurt because I tore my ACL like a couple weeks after that. But I guess that was the time for, like, or not even a couple weeks, a week after that. So for that 1 week, because I got to start in the national final, which was not expected, but we had a guy, Rich Volchin, who had an injury, and he played for Columbus Crew forever. He might still be in the MLS. Something happened to him. He got some injury, so they decided to start me in the national final. That was a big deal, man. That, like, there were a lot of eyes on that game, and that's when in my head I'm like, well, I'm in a good position. These guys are all getting a lot of exposure, and I did. I guess that's when I say we became more realistic. But it dipped down. I tore my ACL, and then it kind of went away. I had to redshirt senior. So I was always a dream of mine, but I don't think it ever really started to become more realistic outside of that 1 week.
Yeah. So then after college, you get the USL Combine invite?
Yeah. So going back to that PDL experience, because it kind of goes back, like, so we were struggling all year. We were like in middle of the table in our conference, and we're supposed to be winning it. The coach pretty much said, he said like, you guys need to flip this season around, or I'm going to blacklist all of you. It wasn't the coach, it was the GM. He pretty much said to me, like, the MLS, I'm going to blacklist all of you. So I don't know if it worked, but we flipped the season around, went on a giant winning streak, and there was one game like we played in Canada, and I didn't have a passport. A lot of guys didn't have a passport, or mine wasn't valid for my younger passport. And I like expedited it and like did all this thing for the team because they really needed players for this, and I expedited it. And like the GM of the fire said, hey, if you ever need a favor, man, let me know because I did that. It cost me a lot of money, but I got my passport, and they needed players for that game. And after college, man, I was an academic All-American 2 times, but I don't know if that was going to open up the doors that I needed to, or even the USL Combine. So I just asked him, I'm like, hey, go, like, I said, hey, his name, the GM, I said, hey, can I call him that favor now, you know? And he said, yeah, I can put your stuff to the USL guys and see what they say. So he put it up there. I got invited to the USL Combine, and I went to that combine, and to be honest, no American coach wanted anything to do with me. They didn't want to touch me with a 5-foot pole. Maybe because I was short. Maybe I was playing outside back and outside mid. But there was one Japanese GM there, and he was actually there with an agent who had helped players go from Japan to the U.S. And I was like, whoever was going to come from this combine was going to be their test, right, to go from the U.S. to Japan. And I think they said like the guy was interested in 3 people, and he offered 3 people the opportunity to go over there. And I was the only one that took it, I think, which is crazy, man. But maybe they didn't know. I think they did tell me going into it. No one spoke English over there or something, which was definitely not an easy opportunity for the
Yeah,
first time playing
I can't
professional.
imagine that.
Yeah. So that was crazy. But yeah, so I did that, and they invited me. I said, I'm going for it, man. I got that. That's all, soccer's my whole life. I don't care if I can't speak English to anyone or what happens, man. I went to Asia and tried that, and, I kind of alluded to it before. Nuclear disaster, Fukushima, man, which is a big thing. Like, a lot of people may not remember that, but it was a big thing, man. Japan was essentially like melting down, man, and like, I had to get out of there. They were going to offer me a contract, at least a short-term one, and I said I got to go. They were working on the visa stuff. I said, this is crazy, man. So my mom was crying, and every day, like when she called, like she was freaking out. But yeah, I ended up leaving there, and it is what it is, man. I look back and think about it, but there was some crazy stuff going on in there. So everything happens for a reason.
Absolutely. Yeah. So then you come back to the U.S. You get picked by Dayton Dutch Lions, correct?
Yeah.
What talk a little bit, because obviously now, especially younger players, they see
Yeah.
what the USL is today, but obviously back then it was a much different just scene of soccer in the US. What was your kind of experience that's different then than what it is today?
Yeah. I mean, I think back then, from what I see now, I think the infrastructure is better all around, like they're starting to get all the teams have to have, good stadiums and everything set up. And I think back in the day, like the quality of players was pretty good because there were less teams. When I did it, there were maybe 8 to 10 teams, man, back then, or maybe 12. I don't really remember, but it was like 8 to 12. So now there's like 30 teams, So you take all that talent and you put it down into 8 to 12 teams, what it was before, and now you spread it out between 30 teams. Plus you have NISA, plus you have all these other USL2. You have all these opportunities. So I think the talent was really good back then, and everyone kind of knew each other because it was such a small league. And I think now a lot of guys in the USL probably know each other, but with all these different leagues, like the American pros may not always know each other. Oh, he's playing in USL2 or whatever it is, the champion. I don't get the names anymore, but like championship or League One, whatever. Like they don't know, they might not know each other. They could show up to Bridges one day and be like, I played for Chattanooga or whatever the teams are, and the other guy's like, yeah, I played for like Louisville, and they just don't know each other. Back then, like if you were playing in the U.S., like I guess there was that other league, NISL or
NASL?
I can't NASL. Yeah, man, I'm
Yeah.
getting too old. Yeah, good call. There was the NASL too, man. So there was some of that, but there weren't many teams in that league either. But going back to it, the infrastructure is better now. They're using baseball fields and stuff. I think that's brilliant. A lot of teams are building sports specific. I think back then you had maybe more fluctuations in the quality of team. Maybe it's because there are less teams, but we had Orlando City back in at the day, and they just were way better than everyone else, just outplayed the league. It was like they're going to pretty much win unless something crazy happens. And then you had teams like we got beat a lot, man. We actually outpossessed a lot of teams because we had Dutch coaches. Our coaches were like, hey, we're going to try to play. And back then, not a lot of teams tried to play. So I guess like we got beat a lot because we tried to play and we had better possession and they tried to play a Dutch 4-2-3-1. But when we played Orlando, we were like one of the only teams that could hang with them because I think pretty well because we both played established possession, Orlando City before they went MLS. But I think that's what I would say. Going back to your question, is just there was less teams, so maybe there's less teams, so maybe some of that gets funneled in, and there's
Right.
not so much diversity, and then the infrastructure wasn't as good, man. Teams used high school like complexes sometimes. Some teams had really good fields, like Orlando City. You're playing in the Orange Bowl or whatever, man,
Yeah.
and same thing they're using now. But then you had teams that are playing on high school like soccer fields, so it was pretty crazy back then, I guess, with that part of it.
Yeah. So
Uh,
you play there for 2.5 years?
Yeah, I
Or,
played there for 2.5, and So I played there for one, had a really good season, made team of the week a couple times, and had a bad injury that ended that season. Came back the second year. I ended up working a lot in that off season, getting a desk job, just because I had a girlfriend, man. You know those mistakes. I made a mistake, man. I wanted to stay there I should have came back and grinded at Bridges, man. But I wanted to stay there and be with her. That didn't work out, and ended up just like because I stayed there and I worked a job, I didn't go back and train as much. I think that was a big reason I ended up tearing my ACL my second year. So I played 2 games. We were undefeated, man. We won at home against Pittsburgh, and then we went to team in Florida, VSI Tampa, beat them, tore my ACL in like the 88th minute. The coach was like, I jumped up for a header, hyperextended my knee, 88th, 89th minute. We're up 1-0. Coach was like, hey, Coach, Kyle, you want to go out? You want to go out? Like, no way, man. 89th minute. We're in war. We're in battle here, man. Hindsight, that was a really bad decision. Went to go press a guy and literally no contact, man. But I think that hyperextended weak my hamstrings or something, and heard that crack, man. Knew it kind of right away, and that was the end of that season. Came back the next year, didn't play at all. The coach, it was a new coach. He was so excited about like having me, even though I tore my ACL. I was like, wow, this is crazy. He kind of like offered me a contract contingent on me being healthy in preseason through preseason, and I find out like 2 weeks before the season, he's like, no, we found another number 6, so we actually don't need you.
Sheesh.
I'm like, do we have a verbal contract, which wouldn't hold up in court or anything? I'm like, we have a verbal contract, and now you're gonna say like that you don't need me anymore. And I ended up going there, but they had no interest in playing me, man. So I was in bad form, and to be honest, I barely got through preseason healthy. That was like our deal, and I had a screw that was like sticking out of my knee, man. I just kept playing through it because I'm like, all right, we
Sheesh.
have a contract contingent on me being healthy. I can't lose this contract. So my knee was like a balloon, man. I was playing, but yeah, so that didn't work out, man. That year I didn't play at all. When I decided to leave was when we played Columbus Crew in a friendly, and he said everyone's going to play this game no matter what. And we had like an affiliation with them. They were loaning 5 players, so that's how we had the friendly. I played in the game. I got in for the last 30 minutes, 25, 30. It was by far, I think I was the best player on the field in that game when I was in the game. And I even got I took highlights from that and made like a whole highlight video out of 30 minutes.
Oh, wow.
And I asked the coach after the game, I'm like, hey, and I didn't travel the next game. I'm like, hey, what's going on? He's like, oh, I thought you knew. We have 28 players on our roster, and only 27 or 20. We have 28 players in our pool, and only 27 can be on the roster. He said, you're not on the roster. You've been playing great, but we made this roster early. And he said, I'd have to cut someone or release someone and pay them the rest of their contract to put you
Wow.
on there. Yeah, so I found that out. I hit up Brett asking for advice, and Brett Hall from Bridges, and he said, like you got a contract, you got to stay there. And I think they had like an injury that happened with their team, and then he kind of hit me up. And he's like, hey, we had an injury. Like, if you want, you can come over, you can come with us. Or he said we want to see you're in form. You come to a couple games. You played Indy 11 and maybe Charlotte with Bridges, and he saw I was in good form. He's like, hey, we need numbers. We need you. So I ended up heading overseas with them that year.
Yeah. What when did you first get connected with Bridges?
So after I finished college, I'm like, hey, I need a place to train from ending my college career to the USL Combine, and that's when I first went there, I knew some people there, obviously. I played with guys and stuff, but like, it's just crazy to think about my first days in there. I had no idea how the teams were set up, man, or anything. I just went in there like oblivious, one of these kids like that's, oh yeah, it's just playing. He's making random teams, and they put me on one of the lower teams, man, and like, I did really well, man, and like, I think he like was asking who I was at the first day, man, and second day he kind of put me on his team, maybe the second team, man. He liked how I played, I think, and liked how I grinded, and then it kind of went from there. Didn't sign anything or even like talk about going anywhere with them. I went to the combine, ended up getting the opportunity to Japan, and then after that, all didn't work out, and I came back. He's like, you need to be playing somewhere. He's like, come stay with us, and that's kind of where like I stayed the rest of that year, the last 6 months with them.
I see, I see. So yeah, so you go over on the summer trip. You end up signing in Finland.
Yeah.
What's your first experience in Finland playing for Kemi Kings?
Yeah, that's a great question, man. So I go over there, man, and I'm expecting like I've heard the last year a couple guys got signed in Ljungskile in Sweden, which is a super ettan team, and I'm like, which is second level over there, and it's good level, it's good money, and and these guys had no USL experience, so I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go over there, USL experience, like some accolades, and I'm at least gonna get an opportunity with like a second level team in Sweden or something like that, and nothing comes up, man. They end up the Bridges thing. No one even like sees me, or I don't know what it was. No one really went many places from that trip, man. Like, or any like high places. But I ended up going to Sandviken, which is a team in at that time Division 1 or 2. But this is when you needed a professional visa. It was really difficult to get in those levels. I go there. The coach gave me 45. I was there for like a week. He asked me, he's like, "How do you feel when I got there?" I said, "I'm pretty tired. Like with Bridges, we've been playing a game every other day." So he said, "Okay." He ended up giving me 45 minutes in the end of the end of my trial period there, like 3 or 4 days in a game. He starts me, plays me 45 minutes. I don't think I played very well. My worst trial experience probably ever had, but still think it was a 4 or 5 out of 10. And he takes me out at halftime. He's like, I think you were one of the best players on the field, but we have a game this weekend. We have to sign a player, or we can't sign you and get your paperwork in. Essentially, what he's saying, he's like, I got to try something for this weekend. So I said, okay, not knowing where I stand. And then after that, the next day, my agent calls me, and he pretty much says, yeah, they're not interested. I go, well, this is crazy, man. He gives me 45 minutes. He tells me this, and he actually said it in the newspaper too. So he wasn't just saying that to me.
Oh,
But I
wow.
guess what a lot of players find out when they start the pro is there's so many decisions and so many people that have to say yes. So the coach liked me, all the coaches I think, but the board didn't. They didn't want to pay the money they had to pay back then, which was a lot for that level because you had to get a professional visa. And then I honestly was deciding between going home because I had a flight the next day to go home, or he said there's a team in Finland that wanted another player, a center mid, wanted another center mid, but he already got signed by another team, a Bridges guy. So they said he saw your CV and he said or your resume. He said he kind of likes your resume. You can go up there if you want, but he's like no guarantees. And like to go up there. And I said, well, I got a flight home tomorrow morning, or I can get on a train that morning and go. And that a flight home's not cheap, $400,
Yeah.
something like that. I stay up all night. There's this guy, Adam Kelmet. He was a Bridges guy who was on that team, signed the team I was trialing with. Sorry, go back to Sandviken. I was staying with him, and I'm up all night, man. I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? Money's not easy to come by at that time in my life and that career. And I was like, it isn't either now. But I was like, what do I do, man? So I essentially decided, like, I actually passed out maybe at like 4 o'clock and woke up after the train would have went. So I'm like, all right, that makes my decision pretty easy. So I'm going to Finland, man, and I go to Finland, take an overnight train there, because I was like, yeah, you know what? I don't want to take a flight. I said, because if I take a flight, I have to take one really early in the morning or something, and I have to get up, and then I have to take a train to the airport. So I'll take an overnight train because that will then I'll sleep on the train. Little did I know, I can't ever sleep when I travel. So I take an overnight train there, and then I get up off the train after like 8-10 hours. Barely slept in that train, and I picked this made me laugh, man. This is totally random, but it made me laugh. I picked, like, for whatever reason, I was in my like my bunker, and I think And then I was eating tuna. I just remember this. I was eating tuna in like a thing of like 6 beds. And I'm like, I felt so bad for the other people that were in there. I think it just smelled so bad. And it just made me laugh. I just remember that overnight train. So completely irrelevant, man. But the
No,
little
no one
things I
else was
remember.
sleeping either.
Yeah, exactly, man. But just trying to stay healthy on the trip, man. Eat healthy, very important lesson for all the kids out there. But I get off the train, man, and I go to meet the coach. It's an English coach. This guy played for for West Ham, man. He played.
Oh
He won
wow.
the FA Cup in England. Yeah, his name was Tommy Taylor. He had a really good playing resume. He was starting his coaching career. He's an older guy too, or at least starting it abroad from England. And like first of all, I get off the train, and I don't realize like the Sweden and where I was in Finland like are different time zones. So I told the president like an hour. It should have been an hour early, man. I didn't know this stuff. And the president, I show up, and the president's pissed off. Like these guys all have a lot of money, like the CEO or whatever. And he's like, I've been waiting here for like over an hour. And I said, oh, the time changed. So that's not a good start. And then he takes me over to like the restaurant that sponsored us that everyone ate at, and the coach was like he's letting go of a player as I'm coming in, man. So I'm seeing him like let go of a player. So a little bit intimidating, a foreign guy like a Danish guy. He's letting go of him, and I think that was to like potentially open up a spot for me or another foreigner. But I ended up going there, talking to him a little bit. He says, "All right, we got a training in 30 minutes." He's like, "Do you want to go?" I haven't slept all night. I just got off a train for like 10 hours. And I'm like, I said, I can, because you're supposed to. Like, you go on a team. I learned my mistake the last time in Sweden. Like I said, I was kind of tired. This time, I'm like, yeah, coach, I'm great. I slept 14 hours on the train, whatever he needed to hear. So I go to the training, man, and it's one of their recovery days. And this team was so stacked, by the way. We had too many foreigners for our roster, and they won like every game pretty much that season when I came in. And I go to the training, and I guess what happened is when my agent had like sent me over there on the way, like between the time I accepted it and going over there, one of the Serbian guys' friends was on trial with the top league team, and he got let go. So he came in with this team from the trial. He came in with this team, and they saw him, and they signed him for their last international spot. And I came, and this guy had just signed, but he's like, he's like, all right, it was a recovery day. I didn't know this. I go out there, and it's just literally the whole training. I guess this is how English trials go. The whole training, like, was these guys that were in the recovery training. So the guys that played the games were dragging around. The other guys that didn't play much, they were doing light stuff. They were like hitting balls, but they were just hitting that, and they were testing our first touch, man. So I get off the train, 12 hours, man, no sleep. And like I'm just balls getting pinged in from 50 yards, man. Like how's your first touch? You're in this box, he's in this box. You gotta lay the ball. I don't know what it was, man. Maybe I was twilighting or something, man. But like I was just playing out of my mind, everything. And then we get into finishing, man. Like he puts a goal up. He has these guys that were resting or the guys that were doing half practice. He has all the guys on the team just and pinging balls in. Oh, by the way, it was me and this Serbian guy who was one of the best strikers I've ever played with, one of the best, most technical players. I had no idea he was Serbian, man. I didn't know anything. I walked into training. I thought it was a Finnish guy, and I'm like, dude, these guys are sick, man. And this
Yeah.
guy was like he was one of the most technical players I ever played with. And so it's just me and him. We're the guys getting everything pinged in. He had just signed with them, and the coach is testing us. And then we do like a finishing thing after where he says, all right, you guys drive the ball a yard off the ground or 6 feet, 4 feet, something like that, like waist height. And he's like, you guys finish it. And for whatever reason, man, I saw this guy, and I'm like, if this is what Finnish guys are like, I got to hang with this guy, So I saw this guy, best finisher I've ever played with probably. And I played some really good ones. And he's just nailing the balls in. So I'm keeping up with him. And like I said, I'm playing out of my mind. So I don't even know if I could ever do that again, man. But I'm just nailing. They're driving balls. I'm sideballing them perfectly in the corner, man. And like after that, like the next day, the coach brings me aside. Like end of that training, it went really well. The coach brings me aside. He's like, hey, would you be okay if we sign you for next year? Because we just signed the last foreigner, and we literally can't put any more foreigners on our roster.
Oh wow.
And I said, I'm not going to sign anything for next. Yeah, so I'm not going to sign anything for next year. Like, if you guys want to sign me now, like, and we can talk about next year in the contract. That's what me and my agent kind of came to, and they ended up signing me, man. I had some friendlies in the time I was there. I was there for like a week, and they ended up signing me. And I didn't play as much because they already had all their guys locked in, their foreigners, and they won every game when I was there that they needed to win until they won the league. So that I didn't really play much. I came in off the bench, helped them in some games, and couldn't knock out any of the other English guys or the other foreigners he had there, and French guys or whatever. So I ended up not playing much that season, but that was my experience to European football, which wasn't great, man. Because when he signed me, he told me and my agent, he said, "I'm not going to sign him if I'm not going to play him." And obviously, like either something changed or we found out about that stuff later, man. So that was my first experience, and then obviously I had it over to Narpez the next year.
Yeah. Were you thinking after the first year, were you set on going back to Europe? Were you interested in trying another team in the U.S., going to Sweden? What was your thought process that ended you to Kraft?
Yeah, that's a good question. To be honest, at that time, not playing much in the USL the year before, not playing that as much as I'd like to at the end of the year in Finland, and having two ACLs on my on my resume, like I wasn't really couldn't really be what they say, beggars can't be choosers, man. I wasn't begging, but I couldn't choose at that time at the level I wanted. I did look in the USL. I was open to playing in the USL because I had a better experience there in my first year than I did in Finland. But I liked parts of the European. I liked how they played football there. I did like it. So I was pretty much 50-50, man. Something wherever a contract came up best. And nothing came up. No one wanted anything to do with me, man. Kraft, like I actually reached out to an old teammate that played there a couple of seasons before that wasn't playing. I played with him in Dayton. He wasn't even playing anymore. And, it was just that networking paradigm. You just got to network as much as you can. And he said, hey, I can put your stuff into the guy there. And that Kraft at that point had never gone with any other agent than David Williamson. And they still might not anymore. But he was the only guy they had ever worked with. I guess they had a really good relationship. And because I kind of went in through my friend, I think that helped rather than the agent I had, and because I think they can at least use that to rationalization to this David Williamson guy, and they said, hey, we got a player in right now, but if he gets injured, you can come on trial. Or sorry, if something happens, we don't sign him, you can come on trial. Brazilian guy ended up getting injured. I came in there just at the end of March, man, right before their season started. We played Vasilievko, which was in the higher league at that time, and in preseason we beat them on my trial. I played well, and they signed me in on a really good contract. Only foreigner there, but I think for that league, really good contract. And that's kind of what happened. To be honest, I would have played any decent level I could have got. I wasn't at that time. I wasn't trying to be really picky or choosy.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, the team that Kyle's talking about is our biggest rival in my league now. So there's
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's good that they signed you, but I'm glad that you're not playing for them anymore for my sake.
Yeah. I tell you what, though, you guys both have nice fields, man. Your
Yeah,
pitch and their pitch in the area has to be one of the best in the league for sure, but even in the area for higher level teams, man.
yeah, and they just redid their stadium and the track around it the last 2 years, so it's looking really nice for them now.
Yeah, you sent me a picture of that, man. And I was like, that looks beautiful, man. And that was a selling point when I went there. They're like, look at this, and to be honest, like they marketed to me, I think it was the best in that level and one of the best in, especially when you just talk about the pitch in like out of maybe the top teams over there, Hoiko and things like that. It was one of the best, I think, playing pitches out there.
Yeah, and the field in Vasa was obviously really nice, but now they took that away from grass and it's artificial grass. So it's a nice stadium, but it's
Yeah.
nowhere near as nice of a pitch as it was. So now those have really increased in value of grass pitches and in that part
Yeah.
of Finland now.
Dude, that plays a big role on your body. I tell you what, at the end of my career, that was a big that was a deal breaker sometimes. We playing on if it's turf, is it top FIFA quality, or are we playing on grass, I was struggling in Sweden before I went to Slovakia. That was part of the reason I not part of it, but it factored into my decision. I'm like, I actually had an injury kind of during that whole season, man. And I said, I'm dying here. I got to leave, in Slovakia. Really, it's good grass fields. Not amazing, but they're grass fields, which is better for the body.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you're in Sweden. That I think that stadium is beautiful. Obviously, it's
Yeah,
artificial grass, but stadium's beautiful. You have a
yeah,
lot of success there. I know
yeah.
you were playing defensive mid
Mm,
for the year where you guys allowed the fewest goals in the entire league. You were
yeah,
one of three for the nomination for midfielder of the season. You had a lot of
yeah,
success in Sweden.
yeah,
Obviously you had played a lot in other places and had success, but I feel like those years in Sweden you really uh, put yourself on the map as a very good midfielder during those
yeah.
years.
Yeah. I think that was when, because I don't think a lot of players are willing to do this sometimes, and I see a lot of players dip out after injuries or bad seasons, whatever it is. I had injuries, and I went from here in the USL, and I had to grind my way back up, and I helped that team promote and helped grind up with them, and my form kept getting better and better. As that whole time after the USL, I mean, I was here. My form went like it kept getting, because I knew with two ACL injuries, man, I knew how I had to market myself, and I had to be way better than the guy next to me to get where I wanted. And I made that happen in Sweden. They had amazing staff there. The people in Linköping, it was the fifth biggest city in Sweden. Like you said, the facility was amazing. One of the best facilities, probably in the top, even in the level above us there, or the couple levels when I was there. Amazing facilities, really good opportunities to go do extra training when I wanted. I was getting touches every day, man. I was playing games, and I had a schedule, man. I said, I'm going to play my games on whatever, they're a Saturday or Sunday, and then I'm going to either go out the next day or the day after that. So I played 90 minutes, and I would go out the next day or the day after that to go hard, maybe for 2 hours of extra work, 2 or 3 hours. Maybe do that
Jeez.
for 2 days. Yeah, maybe do that for 2 days. And then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, like I would not do extra stuff. I don't have my own team training. I try not to. Sometimes I got the itch, man. I'd go do it. But I got in that routine, man, at the end of my time in Sweden. And, you get comfortable in the place, man. I knew exactly how to do it. The equipment manager guy there, one of my best friends, the guy helped me out so much whenever I needed to get extra touches with the balls. And yeah, that was probably where I really started to, like, I was going up, but I started to go up like that. And I think Slovakia, when I went over there, I was in the best form of my career at there. But this is where I started to kind of even get on radars.
Yeah, what's your experience? Obviously, we've had other players on that have talked about, Finland or Sweden, kind of the
Yeah,
Nordic country experience, but Slovakia maybe is more of an unknown of the football world there. What's your experience? What was it like there?
yeah. So I would assume it is, because Slovakia is not a country that's really open to bringing in Americans. I'll tell you why. I learned why, man. They got some massive visa complications for Americans, man. You got to get FBI fingerprints.
Wow.
Yeah, no. So you have to get your fingerprints to get your FBI check. You got to get all this stuff like perfectly done, man. That's one of some crazy immigration stories. I almost got kicked out of every country, but the one in Slovakia was I had to go to a different country to get fingerprints, FedEx them back home, get them sent back in time. But I think that's part of the reason. But also, they don't all speak English there, man. There were guys on my team I couldn't speak to, man. Which, in Japan was normal way back then. But ever since then, every team, Finland, Sweden, they speak. The kids always, every player in the team probably speaks English. There they didn't, and that was a real cool situation, because it was a Slovakian team, but it was owned by Brazilians. So we had a lot of Fluminense players from the top team in Brazil on loan over to us, and our coach was a Fluminense coach. He's coaching. He's my favorite coach I've ever had professionally. Amazing coach. He's the guy who saw me, brought me over, believed in me. Like played me from pretty much from the start when I went over there. And now he's coaching he's one of the coaches for the U20 Brazilian national team. So he's doing really well for himself. He was a young coach. He still is young, but he was young, and he was just starting his career. Kind of like a pap coach. But so I had those two experiences, man. And I'll tell you what, Slovakians are very good technically, and physically they're pretty good. They're not super big, but they're pretty strong physically. But I think some of the countries like Czech and that I've heard that are close to that in the kind of the more Eastern Central Europe, they're a little bit bigger, but they're very, very technical there. I think the thing about Slovakia is, though, compared to Sweden and Finland, it's more of a poor country. So as
Hmm.
in, like, it's not a third world country, but that league, and what I found out when I was trying to push for that top league over there, and when I went over there, is that it's a selling market, you know. And Sweden is not so much of a selling market. It is, they do sell players in the top leagues in Sweden, but I think they like to keep players and they have money where they can. Whereas maybe there's just one team in the top league in Slovakia that like really wants to compete in like the Bratislava. It's a team in their capital. It really wants to compete. Maybe two teams, but Bratislava is the and they get in the Europa League, sometimes Champions League, but everywhere else, like they want to bring in young players that they want to sell, you know. And I think what was different and how I got in there, since I was an older player and I was American, not very marketable with my ACL injuries. How I got in there was because that they were struggling bad when I went over there. Like they were on like a 4-game losing streak, and they were in 15th out of 16 teams. Top 4 went down, and there was the last day of the window, man, and they needed it. The coach saw me, so I went over there. But I tell you what, very, very technical, very high speed. I went over there from Sweden and walked in there. And in Sweden, I think at the end of my career there, I was starting to hit free kicks for my team, and I had worked my way into that position. And I just trained him. We had a 3-week break in Sweden, man. And I spent the whole break. I didn't go anywhere. All these other guys went on vacation. I stayed back the whole time, man, just working on set pieces. I said, hey, my team's struggling on set pieces. I want to work on them. And I ended up getting into a position where a coach, I came back into our after the break in Sweden, and I took set. I said, hey, coach, let me take some set pieces. He's like, really? You never take them. I started taking them. He's like, all right, you're taking all the corner kicks. You're on free kicks. That was great, man. Then I go over to Slovakia, and I had worked on all this, man. I'm ready to use it, man. And then, dude, we have guys that are played for the top team in Fluminense, and like Slovakian guys that have played for the national team on our team. So I was like bottom of the line for taking free kicks, even though I hit a couple good ones when we were just training after trainings and the coaches saw it. But that I think that's just, for me, that represents like, it's just a whole nother, it's really good. They're really good there technically. And there's levels above that, obviously Slovakia is here. Then you got, Holland and Spain, and you got all those levels, man. And for me, that was just an eye opener to see, like, you go to this level, it's that much more fast paced. And they played good soccer. The fields weren't the best quality because, like I said, it was a little bit more of a poor country. They didn't use so many turf fields. There are more grass fields there. And, I think that was it. That did affect the play a bit, and it got kind of direct because of the field quality could have been bad at some fields were really bad, And I think that's really important when it comes to the soccer is if you're going to play in a grass field, it's got to be a good grass field.
100%, 100%.
I think that's what I would say there.
Real quick, we got some comments coming in. Shala. Yeah. Shout out Shala. He said, you need to have facial hair to go live. It definitely helps.
Yes.
He's also, though, to be fair, kind of bucking the curve of defenders with facial hair. So
yeah, Shala, you're killing us, man. We had that conversation before.
But we have X and Reed calling you a legend. X said that you love to foul him at bridges. Care to comment and defend yourself?
All right, foul X at bridges. You know what? That kid's a baller, man. He's slippery, and I just wanted him to get ready, man. I wanted him to get ready for the professional level, man. You slip by someone, especially if they're older, man, and they've dealt with a lot of youngin' legends like you. It's just easier to stick your foot out or grab, And
sometimes you got it.
Yeah, man. I mean, X, come on, bro. You got to admit, there's a lot of guys doing that to you in the league, man. You dice them up, man. You meg them, and they're pulling you back. So
exactly. Especially when it's you're an older player at the time defending a younger guy, and it's near the end of the week. They're still fresh. Your body's feeling it.
Yeah. For sure, man. I even pulled, I only went a couple days a week, man, because I was old. I had ACL problems. I'm like, all right, I'm only going to show up a couple days a week, man. And I still, how I played too didn't help, man. I was just killing myself. So, these guys these guys are legends, man. I only respect a legend comment from legends. So I appreciate that because a legend comment only means something from a legend.
I think, though, at the bridges, you're probably the biggest legend in that sense of the word legend.
I've been around a long time. I guess if you factor that, man. And for whatever reason, I was never on the top team. So,
I know.
that's how it goes.
I was shocked because like when I finally made it to the top team, then Brett would
Yeah.
never put you on the top team. So no matter what, I felt like I was always defending against you. Never got to play with you.
Yeah, we always did, man, because I always played attack. I always attacked in bridges too, man. Brett's like, but no, I think obviously Brett is a genius. His dealing with people is a genius, and everything he did with me made me the person I am. And he did similar things to, but be honest, Eric Garrick, man, played 5, 6 years in the MLS. I think he finally went on the top team his last a couple of years, but there were years he was in the MLS, man, and it's just like he built his team and he wanted to have competition, and I was a grinder, man. And I was, like I did get pissed at times, man, when these guys that did stupid things, or these young kids, man, they did stupid things, or they cost me a game. And when I was only going out there a couple times a week, and I didn't want to be that guy, but at times I was that guy. And I remember when I was a kid, man, I'm like, look at these dicks out there, and I ended up like turning into that guy a bit, but I always try to catch myself, man. I always try to go to guys later and been like, like try to like put my hand on their shoulder and be like, it's nothing personal. I'm frustrated at my situation too, because I want to be with, these other guys that are playing better soccer, because the grinding team was great. They ran a lot, which is what I can do. But, the top team, man, always played better soccer, man. So
Yeah. And see, I had kind of the different experience my first time when Brett put me on the top team. He, after a couple weeks after, told me, he's like, I put you on that because it was like Mikey Stevens and all. And he was like, I want you to deal with players just getting mad at you for having the worst touch.
Yeah.
So that was mine, was like, can you, deal with your teammates being mad that you're, maybe not at the same level as them, and continuing to still worry about your play and still focus. So he's a genius with what he does.
Yeah, I tell you what, man. If there's something that he's better at than coaching, Coach Brett, it is his ability to manage people, to get the most out of every single one. I've never seen someone he cannot interpersonally break into and like get the most out of them, motivate them in different ways. Because he takes people from everywhere, man. He takes people that were growing up in a household with all the money, opportunities in the world, and he brings them back down to earth, man. He takes people that have no opportunities, that have a rough growing up, and he brings them up to like, hey, you got to be this professional, like, and like even despite everything you've dealt with. Not saying that this is what I've seen. I've seen him do this stuff with guys that had no discipline or anything, like, and he brings them there. So that's amazing. But backtracking, man, you always did well on that team, man. You fit in there really well, I think. On the top
My
team.
secret was I was willing to never cross half to attack. So that's where I was willing to just hold and be the last man. So, and those guys all want to go forward and score. So
brilliant, dude. But that's why I would always just like pull the old school like Bridges, like the experience move of like always like running on the boards behind the defenders, just making you check your shoulder. I remember one time back in the day, Bridges was another monster back in the day, man.
Yeah.
And I remember like when I signed for Dayton, there was one time in my Bridges career, I think I had like a couple weeks where I was one of the top players there, despite all the MLS guys there. Like, and maybe I'm just saying this, but I was scoring, like there were days where I scored more goals than anyone else. And I used that strategy, bro. Just chill in the back, man. Post people up, man. Being that even the small guy, man. But yeah, that was good times, man. And way back when, man. Maybe you had a taste of that at your beginning at Bridges, man.
Yeah.
But obviously I've been around forever, so that was before a lot of people even remember.
All right. Yeah. So you were talking about Bridges and kind of you were there when it was. I mean, there were just so many ballers there. I kind of saw that the last maybe year, 2 seasons that I was there, which is a good segue too, because sometimes these younger guys are discussing their Bridges 5-a-side teams, and I'm just thinking, man, there's so many great players. They aren't putting on their rosters. If they could have seen it back when it was really flying. So what is your Bridges 5-a-side team?
To be honest, bro, I read over the questions. I didn't see the no MLS, man. So
Well,
when
you
I
know
was
what?
thinking about,
You're a legend. I'll allow whatever you want. You do it.
all right, because mine was back in the day, man, but none of these guys, I don't even know if anyone besides you maybe even played with any of these guys, man. So like when I thought up my team, man, I think I would throw Muhammad in goal. The Egyptian
Uh-huh.
guy played in the Egypt top league. He was a baller back in his day. He's in the goal, man. I'm throwing I think Eric Gehrig, that guy. I tell you what, that guy was a Bridges legend, man. He was a guy that like everyone, the younger kids, because he was on the second team. Sometimes they would hate him because he expected the most from everything, and Brett was fine with it, man. He because it was good for the kids, man. Just like you said, he did the same thing that some of those guys did. And then
Small story with Garrick.
yeah,
Before I met him, before I knew him, I was playing PDL with
yeah,
a goalkeeper that had played with him
yeah,
at Loyola, and obviously, like I had my hair the same as back when he had longer hair,
yeah,
and the goalkeeper's like, dude, you would look exactly like
yeah,
this guy I played with in college, and so he
yeah.
showed me the photo, and then I met Garrick, but at that point he had cut his hair, and so it was like maybe like a year or two later till I
Wow.
realized the connection of that. So
No way, dude. Yeah. I tell you what, yeah, now looking back when you had the when you didn't have the hair bunned up, man, there was a pretty big resemblance there, man. You could pull a doppelganger, man, or a Halloween costume next time you want to go out. Eric Gary.
I'm hoping the similarity now though isn't so much. I'm
Yeah,
hoping I keep my hair.
yeah, no. Yeah, he doesn't I don't he doesn't have the beard either, man, but yeah, so Gary, legend, man. Chris Schuler, who I actually grew up playing with, man, 6 foot 55, I think, man. Every time you got by that kid, I saw so many players get by that kid in youth and in professional. They got by him, but he was 6 foot, maybe 5 or 6, but he had like a wingspan that he could reach like 8 feet away, bro. So he would pull this claw and everyone would get by him. They had no chance, and he was really good on the ball, man. So those two, in the middle, Baggio Husidic, played for LA and Chicago Fire forever. I think he might have got a national cap here or there. Ned Grabavoy, I tell you what, Ned Grabavoy, he came there, man. It was tough. It was close between him and Patrick Nyarko because Patrick Nyarko would just literally get the ball from the goalie, run through everyone. But Grabavoy would chill in the middle, and he would just get the ball and dribble everyone 2 times. That's why I picked him. Because Nyarko only went through everyone once. Yeah, but Grabavoy chilled in the middle, and he'd beat everyone twice. He'd
He
nag you,
was
and then,
he was so frustrating to defend
yeah.
because I remember I asked him, I was like, "Why are you wearing tennis shoes in here?" And he goes, "Because I can roll the ball better with them." And I remember
Yeah.
one time, I think he made like 4 guys, did it double to at least one of the guys, and then just chipped the ball into the goal as the goalie's laying on the ground.
Dude, I tell you what, man, and he would play for Magic too. So he was a couple of years older than me, man. And Mako loved him. Mako was the guy that ran the club and was the #1 country. Worked with Fire a lot too. This guy loved him, his coach, and I was like, yeah, he's good. But then you play against him, man, and he played forever, Salt Lake or whatever he played. He played in Timbers for a while too. He probably
But New
got some national
York,
team. Yeah, yeah, exactly. New York, yeah. Probably got some national team cap. I think he at least got on some trips or something. But yeah, he killed it in there, man. And then up top, you got to put Mike Mcgee, man. Just a baller. Now, obviously, he was. I think it was the either Chicago Fire or like the MLS, like one of he scored the most goals or something like that one of the years, and he's obviously got national team caps, man. But those guys, man, and they all came at one time, man. So you're looking at literally right there a Bridges top team, man. And that's why those days when they were there, man, it was the blue team was on all day, man. It was who can last the longest against them.
yeah, I remember when like those guys were all there, and then you also had like Brian Gall. You had so many guys that were just unbelievable, all on
Yeah.
the same team, and it was like, well, I'm going to the second field, I think.
Yeah, there you go, man. Exactly. You just how long can I stay on the top field, man, and not get relegated? But yeah, sorry about that, man. I didn't think through. There's a lot of ballers that have come through that haven't been on teams, man. But I really didn't think through that till the end, man. But a lot of these guys have been mentioned already, man. All those guys are good, all of them. And there's definitely some grinders that aren't even in top 3 leagues, man, that are really good players and that I have a
Absolutely.
lot of respect for. So I just let's thank you for the exception, man, and a little blast from the past, man. So some of these guys know some of the ballers that were in there before.
Yeah, no, and I'll allow it with you too because I mean you've been there for so long. Because I think nowadays, if you said the MLS, they'd all choose the same couple of guys because there's only a
Yeah,
few maybe training there. But at
for
that
sure.
point, even the guys that you're naming, there's a lot of ballers that were MLS guys training there that aren't on that five-a-side.
Oh,
So
100%, man. I mean, there were days where I think there were two teams of MLS guys, you know? So, but it was different. And you know, like, like, there's some really good ballers right there now. And I don't know what's up if the MLS guys all train with their teams or what it is now, man. But, and Fire had their own thing, I think. But, it was just, it was, yeah, for me, obviously I was a different generation of Bridges, you know? I think that was it. Like I was there at the end, and there were some great ballers, and the technique and everything was really good. And you know, but my generation, when I was there at the end, I was only there for a couple days too. You know, like I said, my body was too old. I could not take that Soccer City turf, and probably whatever fumes are in that building too, man. I couldn't take it for more than 2 or 3 days a week. I knew my body couldn't. Or else, I love those guys that were there though, man. Like Reed, X, all these guys, man. Like really yourself, obviously, everyone that was there pretty much every day. It's classy guys, man. They welcomed me in for being a grandpa and also only being there for a couple days a week and you know talking trash or whatever or pulling X back, whatever, all that stuff. They didn't hate. I don't think they hated it all, which they probably should have. So I respect that.
also, rumor has it with there not being any soccer right now. Apparently, Soccer City did like a deep clean of the entire facility.
Yeah.
So I think it needed it, but I'm interested to see if it actually looks a little different now.
Yeah, I know. I was just like listening to some new news on the coronavirus, and they were saying like someone's doing a deep cleaning. What deep cleaning really means is cleaning, and they just wanted to add on deep before they,
It
like,
sounds better.
yeah, exactly, because it sounds better. But yeah, it would be interesting to see what's going on. I was in there once this last off season to visit the guys. Can't play because if I go out, man, what I'm doing right now can't happen if I get injured. So I couldn't risk it.
Shout out Graph is on saying not as sunny as Florida.
What's up, Johan? There's a Bridges legend right there, man. That guy
Yeah.
climbed, bro. He climbed. He went
Uh-huh.
from the bottom to the top. Not really the bottom, but Bridges to the top. We make a new song.
Absolutely. So, just talking a little bit about you. You decided to hang up the boots this after this past season. What was kind of the decision making process that it was time to move on?
Yeah, that's a great question. I see, essentially for me, and what I've told other people, and it's the truth, man. To be honest, at the end of my career, like for all the things I was sacrificing and all the moving I was doing and all the immigration problems I had, like I was like, my life would definitely be, if I want to look at like a normal person, more enjoyable if I'm back at home coaching and having stability and not having to worry about getting kicked out of the country and all this stuff, like my life would be way simpler at home. But I'm like, this is my mission. This is what I'm doing. I need to take everything I can from the game without distracting from what my mission is to pay the game forward. So I said, if I can keep climbing up, and I did that for a while in Sweden and when I started to go up with the team and I was getting looks and I went to Slovakia and I thought I was going to keep going up in Slovakia. Like I thought it was God's plan for me. So I kept going. And then I had a really bad injury that, to be honest, I played through that whole second half of the Slovakian season, and it caused me a lot of problems. I was still playing well, but not as well, and I had problems with that coach, so I didn't play as much as I did in other times. I still played, but not as much. And with my ACL injuries, I just wasn't getting the opportunities that I thought I needed that were going to make me learn more about the game so I could pass it on. So I didn't have that, and I told myself, I said it's time to go back and start paying the game forward because life is short and they always say, hey, you can't play the game anymore after you're done retiring, but life's short, man. You think about it. If you think about you live to 100 years old, 100 years old, that's what, like 1,200 months if you make it there every month, man. That's 1 out of 1,200, and life's short, man. So I was just like, I actually was going to stay in Sweden. I was there waiting. I couldn't play in Sweden, had immigration problems, but I was waiting there with the buddy, waiting for something to happen in Slovakia or Czech or one of these other countries, and nothing happened. Or I was also looking in Denmark a little bit at the end, and I said, all right, I booked a ticket for 1 month in the future. I said, I'll give myself one more month, and you have 24 hours after you book these tickets, it was a Norwegian Air to refund it. And I just was thinking about all the time, man. And I just thought about the same thing I told you right there. You have 1,200 months if you live to 100 years old. So more like we have 1,000 months in our life. I'm like, I'm going to waste a month here being miserable, not playing with the team, not working with my players. And I just said, I canceled that ticket in like the last 5 hours, booked a ticket home for a couple days, which was really cheap. I ended up finding out it was 9/11. Didn't think about that. So maybe that's why it was a little bit more cheap, a little bit risky. And then I haven't looked back so much since that day. Got back, chilled with the family a bit, started right on my private small group training. Went and stayed with some people in Chicago and kind of went from there, man. So, but you know what? I do miss the game a lot. Even though I had the injury, man, I was in really good form at the end of my career. And I still think, man, if this is just me, like if you put me on the field right now, like maybe not right now because I haven't trained as much, but at the end of my career, if you put me on the field, like the other guy will not have a better game than me. Like, not saying I'm going to be better, amazing on the ball, but defensively and what I'll do on both sides of it, my passing percentage. And I that was tough to leave the game because I knew I was in such good form at the end. But, we all have our moments. You had yours with coaching, where you get your sign from God and you have to kind of you have to accept the path that he's given you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's never completely easy, but at the same time, as you said, like there's other things in life, there's other aspects than just being a player, and at some point everyone has to move on eventually.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about what you're doing now with your your new program of how you're choosing to pay it forward.
Yeah, so this has been the last 6 months of my life, man. I've committed everything to this, and this is part of the reason I wasn't able to stop by Bridges more, and I've had no social life these past 5 or 6 months, and now that I actually have a break because of this virus, I'm in the middle of nowhere, Wisconsin, so I can't have a social life anyways. But either way, like what I'm doing, the idea, man, my end goal for all of this, man, was never to become like the next like Yoner one-on-one or these top private trainers in the world that have people come 5 hours away, because that's not good. That's not sustainable for the world. I don't want people coming this far for me. My goal was to always make it more scalable. So like, because as a player, I grew as a player because I took individual skills. I found each individual skill that the best players in the world had, and I said, do I have this skill? So I didn't even watch games I did for the tactical part of it at the end of my career, but when I was really getting better in the beginning, I had the tactical understanding pretty well, but there were so many skills in my game I was missing from youth soccer, from college soccer, even from playing in America. I was missing, and I started adding those onto my game and just analyzing the skills, breaking them down, because I understand my body really well. And that's what I'm trying to do with players now is like, and I do it in my coaching. I've had a lot of success, and like my private thing for just me, my schedule almost got too full where I literally didn't even have any more time to fit people in, but that's never what I want it to be about. I want to make a bigger impact. So what I'm trying to do now is like, I just started a nonprofit. I really haven't announced it on social media, but I at least started filing for it before all this coronavirus stuff happened, and kind of opened up my bank account for it and everything. It's called Soccer Skills for Success, and essentially what I want to do is work with colleges and use those players to become private trainers, and the money obviously becomes self-sustainable for the program, but also goes back into whatever good cause you have out there, And because these kids need to understand, need to learn how to become professional, how to pay the game forward, all these amazing things.
Absolutely.
And yeah, and I think it's the best outlet for. It can be self-sustainable for the college. That's a big goal of mine. And now that I've had this time off, haven't been able to work on obviously training kids or working with colleges, and that's going to take time, and I'm going to have to figure that out. But I've been working on a little bit of online platform, just trying to. The players that want to do it, and I tell you what, a lot of my players don't want to do it, maybe don't have the discipline to do it themselves. I'm breaking down videos of skills that I like, all those individual skills I'm taking. I'm trying to make super detailed videos, breaking them down and giving them to the players. And and the kids that want to do it can teach themselves. Because I don't only want to work with the kids that have, their parents are making six figures every year. I want kids to be able to take care of it. They're training by themselves. And if there's any kids watching or any kids that, right now they're on my site for a price, man. But if any kid tells me, he's like, hey, my parent won't buy it for me, and like, this is my background, I say, whatever, I'll give it to him for free. Like, I want to be compensated so I can also, be able to work on my nonprofit and have that sustain itself without me taking all that money out of there. And, we all have to make a living, but at the same time, like, I want to help kids take their game. That's a pain I'm trying to solve. When I was a kid, no one guided me. I didn't have a private trainer. My parents didn't. No one guided me, and that's what I'm trying to help the players with. Is hey, you don't need to be doing these dribbling moves or juggling skills. You got your feet. Or sorry, you're looking at your feet, or you're doing a juggling skill. It's not going to get you anywhere, man. So that's what I'm trying to do now, man. And I'm just trying to pay the game forward in my own way, or a way I can make the biggest difference.
No, it's incredible, man. It's an inspiration. I appreciate what you're doing, especially as a coach now. I just think, if more people, more former players took that approach in their communities, what effect that would have on the soccer, for the future generations coming up and playing. So I know there's comments on here from other people of just how inspirational that is, that you're giving back so much of your time and energy for the game. It's an encouragement when I see it on social media, all your postings and all of working with kids, and also just the joy you can see that they have when they finally hit, that target in the upper 90 shot or whatever it is, and how happy they are to celebrate with you. So I know you're putting in long hours, but it's definitely appreciated.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, man. I have so much respect for the guys that comment on here. Reed, man, I know that guy's going to make a difference with the game, man. He already is, man. That guy is like, I think at Bridges, man, he's kind of like, he's turned into a mainstay there and a mentor for some of the younger guys, man. So that are grateful for it, man. And he's creating experiences. You yourself, man, as a coach, bro, you're inspiring these kids through these videos where they get to understand how people can do things, but also you're giving American players opportunities over there, which is awesome, man. They might not get anywhere else. So, and those guys will go on to pay the game for it. I've seen some of the stuff you're doing in the community for the program. That's awesome, because it's one thing just to be a coach, man, and be in there. But when you start to like try to actually make a difference in the community, I think Sporting's really happy or really lucky to have you, man. And just that area, man. Christina Stad is really lucky to have you.
I hope so, man. I hope so. I want, obviously now you're a little bit older of a player, moved on, and you have a lot of experience, you've seen a lot of things through your career. If you could look back and maybe, you're talking to 15-year-old self, what's kind of the main advice you would have given yourself at that time?
That's a great question. I think that for me is biggest piece of advice I would have given myself is work smart, don't just work hard. Because I was the guy trying to outwork everyone. And that's a big thing I see. Like, if you ever listen to these motivational things, they'll say, hey, you just got to outwork the next guy. Just got to outwork the next guy. That's not it. Being a professional isn't about who's the hardest working guy out there. Hard work's important, but being a professional is who's disciplined. Anyone can go out there and kick a ball for 3 hours a day. But who can go out there? I mean, at the end of my training, Matt, I would have notes on things I needed to work on, and go out there and have a list of things I need to work on. I'd have a plan. After, I'd take notes on things went well, things didn't go well, so I had them for later, how I felt like I was executing these things. I would take video of myself, go watch the video after, because your body can only do so much extra stuff, but you can do, there's so many little things you can do. I would literally watch video of myself in slow motion, man, and my free kicks at the end of my career, I'm sad. I was training them at the very end, man, and they were in such good form, man, because I was just analyzing my free kicks and looking. So I'd say try to separate yourself not by how hard you're working, not just by that, but how smart you're working and how professional and disciplined you are. So I think that's the biggest piece of advice, because when I was a 15-year-old, I was out in my backyard training stupid dribbling skills all day, man, got me nowhere. Instead of actually looking at, hey, what are the pros doing? 9 out of 10 players take 2 touch and 70% in the game, Why don't I just work on my first touch and my passing range? That would have got me a lot farther than this triple scissor snake, double step over Maradona, whatever.
Yeah, and you see so many players where it's like, oh, I did 200 passes in this, and it's like, all right, but how is the form? If you had correct form in it, doing 20 of those passes would have been more beneficial than 200 with the poor form. But
Are you checking your
again,
shoulder? Yeah.
I think people think, the total amount done of work is the most important thing, where it's
Yeah.
definitely not.
Quality.
Quantity over
Quality.
quality is
Yeah.
how they view
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Um,
So that, yeah.
oh, sorry, keep going with you.
No, that's what I would say to my 15-year-old self. That idiot didn't have a good beard, long hair. Just, he was a loser.
But look at you now. Got the beard.
Yeah.
Check one.
A bearded loser idiot. I've made a lot of progress.
Now here's a fun question I kind of got. For those who know you, know that you kind of notorious for maybe just kind of going your own path with certain things.
Oh yeah.
One of those being diets or what you consume.
Yeah. Yeah.
Give us just like your top two or three like out there food styles or diets that you've gone with over your career.
Uh, I mean, let's see. What I'm doing now is probably something that most people would be like, no way. Like, now I eat like, what do they call it? I try to eat like nose to tail, all the animal. So I literally eat tail. I've never eaten a nose. I'm not sure if you can, but I've eaten heart. I've eaten liver. I've eaten like, pancreas. I had pancreas last night. Everyone's like, oh, disgusting. But sustainability wise, if you eat the whole animal, it's better for the world, and it's also, I think it's healthier through my research. And I'm in pretty good shape, man, for an old guy that doesn't do much anymore. But I think that was pretty crazy. I tried to do, I remember I was on like a big potato diet, man. Like people probably remember that. Like at Bridges, man, I'm still crazy about my diet, but I would like have like just like 6, 7 peeled potatoes in like a glass jar. And right after training, man, I would just try to just like eat the potatoes, like right after. Like, these protein guys, like, all right, I got to drink my protein before the bar hits the floor. They finish their last shoulder press and they drop the bar and try to like drink the protein. I was like that with like potatoes, man. And Garrick and I think some of these guys, you always used to give me trash about that. But and there was one diet where I tried to never combine foods either. That was pretty crazy. So
Oh
I'd only
wow.
eat one food at a time, man. So I'm eating like 10 meals a day, man, because I eat fish, not even vegetables with it, man. Fish here. But like I would even eat I even ate like what flaxseed is?
Uh-huh.
I would like grind up flaxseed and just eat like bowls of flaxseed, man. So like after that, it's stuck all over your mouth, man, and like you can't even like you have to go like rinse, brush like to get all the flax out of there. But I'm like, all right, it's got magnesium, it's got all my minerals, and yeah, man, that was pretty crazy when I did that. I was in decent shape back then, but yeah, I'm absolutely crazy. And also something that maybe I can find the picture for you because I think these kids would love to see it. Is the self-made boots? You remember those?
Uh-huh.
The square, the Franken boots, man. Oh,
Yeah,
I
I'll tell that. I look
yeah.
over at him on the sideline, and he has this normal shoe, but I don't know whatever size you are. It's like 3 sizes too big, and
I'm like an
the
8. It was like a
yeah,
size 12.
and the tip is like bent backwards and like hammered together, so it's like the old American football kicking boot where it's just flat across the toes.
Honest remembers those, man. Oh, dude, the legends remember that. Honest, you're a legend, man. Oh, dude, I remember that was difficult, man. I went to two combines with those on, man. I don't know what I was thinking, man. Physiology wise, I know what I was thinking. But first of all, the laces took up the whole shoe, so you couldn't strike a ball because you got no grip. So I was knuckling everything. I guess for shooting that was okay. But second of all, I went to 2 combines and I actually balled out in both those combines too. I was like, dude, why aren't these coaches taking me? I'm like, oh wait, I took a pair of size 12 boots, stapled them, put pop rivets in them, stapled in a half, and I'm walking out there. Oh man, every single kid I went out of these combines, every single kid, it was like, dude, what's wrong with your boots, man? I had to answer it 20 times a day, man. And I'll try to find that picture, man, so you can have that. Because I went to OKC Combine and they took a picture, man. I can't believe they put it up on their website, too. I got invited down there, man. Went to the Combine, and I'm like, dude, I balled out. I was in the All-Star game, whatever, at their invite Combine. And yeah, that was something that, hey, that's a great business idea. Like, I'm definitely down for that in the future when I get some time. But Yeah, good times, man.
Incredible.
Oh,
See,
yeah, hold on. Funniest part about that is I remember Brian McBride was at Bridges. He came out every once in a while, and then I was the only one that went over to pass him. No one I think everyone was a Timna. I went over with my square shoes, man. He's like, dude, what's going on with your shoes, man? And once we got past that, and then I hit him up on LinkedIn. I hit him up on LinkedIn a year or two later, and I think the only reason he accepted my LinkedIn request was be like, hey, you remember the guy with the crazy square Franken boots? I'm like, that was me. He's like, yeah, I remember you. So hey, it was all for something.
he's like, do you need me to call Nike and send you a pair of boots or something?
Yeah, there you go, man. You need. He's like, I can get someone to donate them for you. That was one of the stupidest things in my life. That's the reason I took from Narpez to Sweden. That was the personal reasons I was talking about.
No, but see, that's I think what also instilled in a lot of people's mind that you're a legend because you're just,
Yeah.
anything, and obviously that's, more of a silly story, but I think you're willing to buck the social norms or the football norms, and you're willing to kind of go out on your own path and do what you feel is right, and I think that's served you well overall in your career.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. I mean, it's got me in a lot of trouble, to be honest. Most of the teams I was at, I mean, but seriously, first of all, no team was ever going to take me, no matter how good I was with that. But I appreciate that, honest. But no, no, and he said he was willing to make it at all costs. I appreciate that. That means a lot because that was it, man. I put my whole life out there and I did everything I could. But I tell you what, a lot of teams, the guys didn't accept me because I did. We'd go on team trips and man, we'd have dinners and stuff. I cooked my own dinner, man, or meals before the game. I knew how to respond to the things, man, and maybe that was taking it to the next level. But I said I don't want in the end of and every team I was on, I was always competing for a spot, man. I was always trying to be the best version of myself. I said I don't want any excuses at the end of the day. So I don't want all players to take it to that level, maybe that I did, but I just want them to understand that the details are what make a difference. The little
Hmm.
details, if you can control some of those, do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think too, nowadays it seems like everyone's trying to fit this exact mold of what a soccer player is and does and everything. And so I
Yeah.
like the fact too, I think the way that, especially in the US, the way we can grow soccer and grow it, and be a successful soccer country in national tournaments and
Yeah.
all is also people going out and branching out and trying different things. If it doesn't
Yeah.
work, you move on. But being willing to try something new is what brings innovation and success, not just trying to fit a mold of what some other country is doing somewhere that isn't going to work for our country.
Yeah, that's
Honest said,
100%.
Honest said, if I had 5% of your grit and passion, I would have made a lot further than where I was. I think they should take it where you took it.
Uh, oh yeah, no, 100%. I mean, Honest was one of those guys at Bridges that he was one of those guys I was talking about. It wasn't in a top league or anything, one of those, but he's one of those guys that he was there from the beginning too. He probably remembers. I mean, not from maybe yeah, maybe he was there for ever since I was there. He probably remembers that team I put up earlier and some of that stuff and you know what he hung with all of them, man. So yeah, he's I think he called himself a prima donna, but I think yeah, I think that if you kept yeah there if he kept pushing, man, and like he said, he had that grit and that passion that with his technique he could have got himself places. But you know what? I see your stuff, man. You got a good life right now, man. So everything's in God's plan, man, and I think you're in a good spot right now. And tell you what, my life is crazy, and it has been crazy for 32 years, and it's still crazy. So um, yeah, I think that that's really important is that people find a life that they're happy in because football's great, but if the grind isn't for you, which it isn't for a lot of people, then you need to find something that makes you happy. Because if you're not happy, you won't be the best footballer you can be.
Yeah. Yeah. Honest just said, I always thought I deserved more than what I gave. And I think that's pretty common with a lot of players and realizing that more often than not, you're going to give, let's say you give 70%, you're going to get 20% out of it.
Yeah,
You have to give a lot more than what you ever get from the game, I think.
yeah, yeah. It's a good point. And you know what? I got to a point in my career where I stopped saying this is where I should be, especially after my ACLs. This is where I should be, and I started thinking more like I'm going to be the best. My mission, we all have to have our missions in my life. Excuse me, my mission is to be the best version of Kyle Knotek, make it the farthest I can to make the biggest difference I can with the game, you know? And
Mm-hmm.
that was it. Once I got there, I started, I mean, it happened in Sweden. I had my aha moment where I was like, dude, I'm not really happy here, and I can be a lot more happy at home. And I made the moment, and this is when I really started going up in my career. I made a decision. I said, right here, I said, I'm going to give everything I have to this game, and I'm going to try to be in the hopes of paying it forward later in the mission for that. And if it stops getting better, that's when I know it's God's time. You know, I said that's when God, it's my time. You give me that clear sign, and it went up and up for a while, and then that's what happened at the end of my career. It stagnated. So I think that there's a lot of players out there, but I have a lot of respect for you, man. You made the most out of you were never the fastest guy in the world, never the tallest, never the strongest, but you made the most out of who you were, man. And you were a smart player. You were good technically. You made the absolute most. Like you're a guy like Eric Gehrig. Eric Gehrig's the same thing, man. That guy made the absolute most out of his physical ability, his all the gifts he was given. He made the absolute best out of it. And I think with my injuries, I probably did as well. Knowing what I know now could have helped me back then. But I think that should be any player's goal at the end of the day. It's just to be the best version they can be with what they've had in them.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's so many other factors that are going to determine where you end up team-wise and stuff. So it's all about are you the best version of yourself you can be as a player?
Yeah, that's it, man. And I think that you're a good example for that, man. I'm happy you're using this as a platform, and also your coaching career is going to be great, man. So it is already, I'm sure, but it's going to get better and better, man. You're just at the beginning. You're a youngin', man.
I am very young. Yeah, I think like
Yeah.
15 years younger than the next closest coach in my league.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. But I told you, dude, my Brazilian coach was about 31 or 32, but it was a pretty high level over there in Slovakia. I tell you what, man, he's maybe 33 or 34. I'm not sure, but the best coach I ever had, man. And sorry, not outside professional coach. We got Brett Hall's obviously on another
Right.
level,
Right.
but for a professional coach, man, I mean, I was playing my best football of my life, man, in a period. So he was amazing, man. He believed in me. He let me play. He had that pep style, where he just like he was a player's coach, man. He inspired the players and he expected a lot from them, but he was always supporting the players, man. He was never like yelling at them. I hated that at the end of my career, man. Like you got a young guy, that's okay for a coach to just rip into him, but if you're a pro, man, you don't need a coach, and I definitely don't think you're like that, man. You don't need a coach to rip in, maybe with young guys, but older players, you don't need a coach to rip into them. They know if they made a mistake or what they've done wrong, man. You tell them one time, and hopefully they correct themselves.
Yeah. You get maybe an immediate reaction by screaming at a player, but long term you do probably more damage than good.
Yeah, that's it, man. You've been there, you've had coaches, so yeah, man, that's big, and I hope these players they understand that one coach will not make you as a player. They can definitely help you out, and coaches are very important. So find a good coach, find a good club, but you always have control over your destiny. There's always another club. There's a bunch. Like I said, the Brazilian coach loved me. And then the other coach at the end of my career that took over, I think he had the opposite, hated me. He didn't bring me over. He was the assistant coach when I came over there. So I don't think he was a fan, and we just didn't have a good relationship. So no coach is ever going to make or break you, though. You can determine your own fate.
Absolutely. I got my goalkeeper coach in here saying, nah, disagreeing that I'm a good coach. So
Yeah, I wasn't sure what he said not to, but I saw your challenge with him, man. That's Arnold Schwarzenegger or what?
yeah, he's throwing some heavy weights up,
Oh, no way, man.
So
He's teaching you a little bit, huh, in Finland?
I'm
Do
trying
they have?
I'm trying to convince him to get to 100 kilos of weight so he can
Wow.
really throw around the big boy weights.
Yeah. I was going to say, man, when I was in Narpez, I didn't even know if they had 100 kilos in that area.
Probably not.
Yeah, man, they had one super small gym, but I think that's a European style there, not as much.
Yeah, I think so. But I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you taking time to share your story. I think you have just a wealth of knowledge. Obviously, you're using it to pass it on, but I thought this was also another good avenue to get your story and your advice out to younger players looking at, either college or professional soccer. So thank you so much.
Yeah, 100%, man. I love what you're doing, man, and any way I can help, man, I'm there, man, because I got a lot of respect for you, man, and the future's bright for you, man. Keep doing what you're doing, man. Hopefully this virus and everything gets sorted out. Hope your family's well, man. Everyone stays safe, and hope Big Cos gets over there pretty soon.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know we had a little trouble, but I think you guys are a dream team, so
And thank you. I appreciate it. Have a good night.
get you on the flip side.
All right. Bye.
See ya.